Ladies and gentlemen, and all those in between, I have found the solution to left unity. The problem is, you're probably not going to enjoy it. When I made my political journey video a few months ago, a lot of people, the message they took away from that was, we all need to put aside our differences, our labels, and we all need to just come together as a united left. And it's very much so a fault in my regard, because that's the exact thing that I try to rail against in the video. I completely understand why, in a world where we have constant leftist infighting, why people would want left unity and would want to, see that in my video. But ironically, from the responses I got at least, it's highlighted something that I really tried my best to get across, which is a lack of seriousness. When we think about left unity, when we think about why we think it's a desirable goal in any way, why do we think that? Not just, ooh, it'd be nice. Because it would make things so much easier. We wouldn't have to worry about all these different, tendencies and all that. We'd all just be able to mold and mesh ourselves together. But in reality, that's not how views work. Our views do matter, and they will determine the different relationships and friendships that we get into in the future. Folks can always go around going, oh, we need to put aside our differences, save ourselves from the left, all that sort of stuff, ignoring the fact that some of these differences that we have very, very real reasons to have them in the first place. That there are very, very real reasons why we argue. And no, for goodness sake, I am not just saying, oh, Bad Mouse is being really sectarian and all that. No, all right? I understand that we have unity for certain things. I'm not saying you go out and kill your neighbor, okay? We have a thing called tactical unity, okay? It's there for stuff like anti-fascism work, so that we don't turn into these guys. When I first got into the left, there was this popular admiration for mutualism, basically market anarchism. And to this day, I really don't particularly understand the fundamental workings of what mutualism is. I don't really think anybody does. And I think I might go a step further and say the people who adhere to it don't really even understand what it is either. I mean, shoot me down, but as far as I'm concerned, it's always just this little thing nowadays that people know is there, that people think is cool, but nobody really believes in it so much. And of course, back then, we had your collectivists, your egoists, your anarcho-nudists, all those sorts of things, anarcho-aspirantarists, and all these little different ideologies. But do you notice with all these ideologies that they're basically just that? Little. And after a while, you just start going, well, why not communism? Why not the synthesis of class struggle? Why are you so content with markets that will inevitably just fold back into capitalism? A lot of the time, the reasons that these ideologies aren't very common isn't because we don't know about them, it's because we don't need them. All right, and that as time went on, because these ideas used to be a lot more common back in the day when socialism was just building its ideas and stuff like that, but they succumbed to the political survival of the fittest, and eventually our views narrowed into a more malleable, efficient form. All right? Political opinions do not all just mesh together. An anarchist plug will not fit into an ML hole. It's the wrong way around, but you get the idea. Right? That is why there is such a need to have a firm line so that we can understand things, a little better. And that does involve constant debate. Oh, why do we have to debate? Why do we have to do that? Why do we have to argue all the time? We don't. Most of the time, we do not need to argue. However, when you make that line, why do we need to debate, all that sort of stuff, just think about this dialectically for a second. Who's to say that the reason that you get to make that line is simply because other people have already made the opposite? That other people got there before you and started talking about that stuff, and you learned from that. And that if you were to remove those people from the equation, that you would simply just turn into them. You can actually just about apply that to anything. I get very pissed off when people because I'm very open about my political changes and all that, why people just get really annoyed with you and I get loads of flack. Whereas people that I know who keep their views very quiet and to themselves, but do go through a lot of changes, don't get any flack. Fuckers. Magician Penn Jillette once said something very enlightening. Tolerance is condescending. And to do this, he highlights the example of a wishy-washy Christian.
What we call tolerance is often just condescending. It's often just saying, okay, you believe what you want to believe, that's fine with me. I think true respect is one of the reasons I get along so much better with fundamentalist Christians than I do with liberal Christians. Because fundamentalist Christians, I can look them in the eye and say, you are wrong. And fundamentalists will look me in the eye and say, you're wrong. And that, to me, is respect. The more liberal religious people who go, there are many paths to truth, you just go on and maybe you'll find your way, is the way you talk to a child. And I bristle at that.
That, I think, is a brilliant point. And actually, it highlights a friendship that I've had for some time with fellow YouTuber Muke Zizizi. Muke and I have been doing this for relatively the same amount of time, 4 or 5 years. We both started on here with very different views, and we sort of, swapped over in that regard since then. And I think if there was anything that could really fundamentally staple our friendship, it would basically be complete and utter fundamental disagreements with one another on everything. But ironically, rather than, that being a sense of disagreement, I think that our friendship and the fact that we have so much respect for one another, I hope, is because of such disagreements that we have, that we are so adamant in defending our views and not just allowing them to be subjugated into wishy-washy, airy-fairy, willy-nilly nonsense. I think we both know that we will not be holding hands in the revolution for very long, but at least we're not being dishonest, And people will accuse us of being, you're just being immature, all that sort of stuff. No, look, I will have that debate. We will have it with the right people, of course, not Walsh. And, we will learn from that and we will develop ourselves. But and just let me bear this in mind, okay? Sometimes, people are dead wrong and they will change their views or they won't. But what we don't do is just go, fuck it, let's do some blow. Because that's just undialectical. You might look at the right and you might see the right and, the right are able to just condense themselves together and think, we're doing something wrong. That is a very, very bad way of looking at things. What is ideologically the right all about? The right is about regression. We need to defend our values. We need to defend the throne from being overthrown. We have to stop the natural progression of mankind. That sort of stuff. That sort of stuff is very easy. It's very easy to hold on to what you've got. It's a lot harder than our objective. Our objective is that we intend to transcend this society. We intend to go beyond that. That's very hard. We can't see what we're doing all the time. And so actually, in that case, constant debate and disagreement and arguing is in many ways a natural consequence, not inherently a vice. And contrary to a commonly held belief, when it comes to determining our views and figuring shit out, right now is fucking heaven. You do not want to be figuring this shit out when we have access to pistols, prisons, and propaganda. That's not going to end well. We can see that it didn't end well. Various historical examples. That's the reason why revolutions are so violent. Because everything's going on and you've got to hold on to some semblance of order amongst this chaos in order to get to the next stage. So that is real left unity, or more accurately you could call it unity of opinion. So that when the shit goes down, when the guns go blazing, we can at least, the average amount of us, can at least agree to some plethora of opinion. Rather than just being, here, there, and everywhere and stuff like that. It's not about giving up labels. I hate that spiel. Imagine if I went up to you and said, I want to give up my association as a left tuber. That's what it's like. Okay, or as a bread tuber or a red tuber or whatever. Okay, because the fact of the matter is, if you think I'm that, you're going to associate me as that anyway. You're going to get labeled whether you like it or not. All right? It's not about doing that. It's about taking up the stuff that works. And truthfully, it is the finest and most honest form of left unity that you can imagine. Because so oftenly in leftist spaces, when I see people talking about left unity, it's not really left unity. It's just left unity, but on my terms. Oh, I'm an anarchist and you're an ML, but don't worry, we can get along with stuff. But no, hang on, hold on. No, that's not the definition. My definition is right. That sort of stuff. No. That's really being dishonest. So when you see someone on the left who you really disagree with, rather than just going, okay, let's work together, let's bury the hatchet, that sort of thing, how about instead asking, why do you have those views? Why are they different to mine? Because obviously there's a reason why you happen to have those views and you think that you're right and I'm wrong. I think if we did that a lot more on the left, that'd be fucking fabulous. Alright. Last week I went down to my old city of Bristol. That's a 6-hour train journey there and back from Liverpool. So I brought a book along to help me through. You can get loads of different audiobooks and more by going to audible.com for just £7.99 a month. However, Audible is also a subsidiary of Amazon. So, if you prefer to escape moral heartbreak, amongst many other reasons, then you should head over to the Library Genesis, where there are literally millions of books and magazines in basically any format you'd want, all for free. I mean, it doesn't have audiobooks, so I guess it kind of beats the joke, but oh well.